G'day folks, welcome back to Delboy's Garage. This is episode 7 of the nose cone. It's time to rub it down. You saw the last one, laid up 2 different colours, layers. So now it's time to rub it down. Got myself sorted out, got some of the 240 grit, 600, and I've made that by rubbing it back on itself as I showed you before. That's kind of a 1200 just to finish with. So I got the paper ready. Got to do it outside, it's a bit messy, and I got the item ready to go. So you saw this last time. This has got 6 thick layers of paint on, and it's had 2 days now in the heat indoors in the conservatory, drying off sort of 40 degrees during the day. So that is lovely and hard now. It feels like it's got a ceramic coating now, which is lovely. So I just want to rub it down, give it a good key up. One layer below this there's a layer of black waiting to be exposed, so that's going to show me all the high spots, low spots, and I'm really not going to bother too much with it, to be honest. It's going to get mullered down in its position on the front of the bike, kind of in here right behind the tyre. It's just going to get sandblasted every single mile it rides, so I'm not going to worry too much. I don't want too much paint on it because it's just going to chip off then. I was talking to a mate of mine who does paint recently, and he does a stone chip product, which is a cellulose product that's quite soft, so I might try some of that, but we're going to see how it goes. This is literally just to get some colour on it. So for now, this involves usual old trick, you've seen this before, loads and loads of washing up liquid, hot soapy water, block, sand, and get some flattened down done. Okay, stick around, stay tuned, let's get stuck in. Okay, using a block, as I said, block sanding, it's in the name. That gives a nice hard flat surface rather than a hand, which is rolls over the ripples and just rubs everything off. So a bit of block sanding. So it looks like, okay, little way in now. What I want to do is just show you this. As you can see, the idea of the 2 guide coats, these are areas where there's black, that's taken the top coat of white off. There's gone through the black, and actually I've gone through to the metal. That's going to get some more primer, so it's not an issue, but it's actually taken down high spots. This was a little run, and that's the idea of a guide coat. You start to see all the different blemishes. Where it's coming through, they're high spots. Where it's not, they're low spots, but they're now filled because that's now completely smooth. So you can fill everything with paint. It's just a case of persevering and gently rubbing, block sanding stuff down. On the back there, it's just taken through a couple of points, that's gone through to the inner white, then the black, then the white on top. So it just shows where you are, so it gives you a guide to what you're doing. Let's crack on, stick around. So obviously on the front curve I can't use the block because it's flat. That'll actually have an adverse effect and cause scores. Just want to show again this principle of a guide coat. If you've never done painting and you want to get into it, guide coats are a really useful thing. You just see that on this one, just rinse that a sec. You can just see that if you just want to take one layer of paint off to give an even sand down, you can see that if you've got a dark coloured coat underneath, quite simply you can see where you've done enough. So when you're rubbing down, avoid that section, and avoid that section you've done enough. It's here you've got to take a bit, and here. You'll also see little bits where I've gone through the black guide coat to the underneath. So really avoid that because you'll go through to the metal. And down here, you see these little sort of ripple lines. That's effectively where there's little ripples in the metal. That, if you feel it, is completely smooth, like mirror smooth down there now. But the fact that there's different colours shows that the paint is filling up the ripples. It's flat on the surface, but underneath it's filling up the imperfections. So again, I can't stress the importance or usefulness enough of a guide coat. 2 different colours. And you can buy grey primer, red primer, white primer. You can just have a good old fun. You could have 3 different guide coats. Just using them as exactly what they are, a guide to where you need. So I'm going in this corner because there's plenty of primer there, the top white coat. And feel the paper. As the paper goes, you start to feel it get easier. I'm just going to crack on with these a bit more. Try and get this rubbed down. It's odd when you You look at that section there, that's the pattern of the little nicks that the grinder left, so that shows that they've been filled by the paint, and as I'm rubbing down through, it's flat on top. So it's all good so far. This is 800 paper now, moved over to hand only. Just standing on an old chamois to prevent it getting digged, because I've got a face surface at the bottom. It's inevitable with flattening down that you're going to go through into the bare metal here and there. Obviously avoid the corners as much as possible, because the paper's aggressive. It's just going to go straight through, straight to the metal. So just avoid them. They'll be fine. And if you feel a little imperfection, you can do that with the finest paper at the end. But this 800 is still too gritty, too coarse to touch edges with. 1200 grit's okay once it's had a little bit of welly. But the difference, just listen. And then the difference with the 240 surface, which I'm now going to flat out. It's hissier because it's still quite rough, and you'll hear it change, and then you know it's ready to move on. Right, now time to move over to the 1200 grit paper, get that fine finish. So I'm going to show you something here, if the camera can pick it up. That is a fingerprint, and when I picked it up yesterday, it was hanging up, and I picked it up like that. That's a thumbprint that has pushed the black through the white. That's how sensitive it is, and as I've sanded that off, it's actually shown it. You can't feel anything. And another little interesting thing is right in these corners, if you sand correctly when you're block sanding, don't go on the corners. That's why you've got white all the way down that corner. Nice thick white still left there, but there's black showing on the front. And these little, this is a weld mark. You can even see the weld marks in the steel showing up in the paint all the way down that side where it's been welded, those little ripples. And you can see there where it's gone through the black and into the white under the black, but not through the paint. In fact, there's a tiny, tiny shadow of the steel there. So that is it. You're right on the cusp of going through. It has broken through there, so I've got to reprime this. That's a little run, which I had, which I blocked out. So it just goes to show that, look at that now, it's like an ultrasound, like a scan of the moon. And it's so useful to do these proper guide coats. So over to the 1200 paper now. And this is just now to put a final finish on that the paint will really love and will really stretch out on and stick to. And you can hear it change. If you start sanding, have a listen to the sound, if your camera can pick it up. It's quite hissy and loud at the beginning. And if you keep it nice and wet, it diminishes and becomes quieter as the surface becomes smoother. Again, it's another guide to tell you that you're getting through. Just perseverance and patience. Okay, that is just about it. There is a bit of a danger with rubbing anything down, that as you start to go, if you just keep going, you just rub all the paint off, and then you've basically wasted your time completely and your paint. It's a little bit of a knack to know when to stop, and sort of you have to steel yourself away a bit. Now, something I want to show you now, just a quick test. This soapy water principle, when you get a squeak, that's the kind of feel. So it's completely grease free. Just feel the whole thing. Bit of sunshine. Lovely. At 8 o'clock at night. Go over the whole thing. Just feel for it. Any little imperfections. I mean, I did this just now, so that is pretty perfect. Now I've gone through 1, 2, 3, I don't know, half a dozen spots. So I'm not gonna put it on that because that's scuzzy. Clean. Let's get some paper. Dry this off with something clean and spotless. Get all the particles off. May as well make a good job of it. A bit more. Now, a good mate of mine, our man Bertie, pointed out that inside here, these are perfect rust traps for the future. And although there's paint on them, that will not stop the water getting in. So what I'm going to do is, there's water in there now, and I don't want to put paint over that water and trap it inside, because that's just a recipe for it. So what I'm going to do is use the old blow lamp in a really sparing way as nothing more than a hairdryer. In fact, change that, I have got an old hairdryer and I'm going to use that. So I'm just going to heat this right up to evaporate all the moisture out of those little gaps inside before I put some more paint on. and trap it all in there because it's all wet up inside there anyway. So I'm going to move this inside now, heat it up, get it all dried out. Doing this is literally just to evaporate out all the moisture before I go sealing it in with paint, which would be a bit dark. Right, that's quite handy. It's also served to warm it right up. And there we are, completely ready to paint. It's just going to get one coat of primer and then I'm going to use up the rest of my satin black on it. Pretty good. We're not really going to know whether this is perfect or whether there are still any ripples until you get a uniform coat over it. But to be honest, I'm not too fussed because this is going to get mullered within a week. There's going to be stone chips and cack up the front of it. So I'm not too fussed about making it absolutely perfect. It's not a showpiece in that sense, and it will get powder coated later on. So this is just really to make it look good and to finish the job. Okay, so it's going to get the old primer prepped and ready to go. I'm going to warm it up a bit with the old hairdryer, I think, give it some pressure. Let's get cracking. Stick around, stay tuned. Let's get some paint on it. Just going to go first of all on the little bare bits of metal. Just touch them in. A little dust coat. And that's it. That's it, coat number one. Okay, tech coat, 5 minutes. Time for the first full coat. There you go. Clear the can. 10 minutes. Right, now the last coat of primer, and we're going to get into some top coat, baby. This one's now going block. That's it, that's the primer done. Now I'm going to give that 15 minutes to set off, maybe 10. Still quite warm. I'm playing this old game again. 19, now it's 23 when I started. It's now, what do we got? 0. Let me get this all up. It's now 8:45 at night, so it's just going to keep dropping. It's not going to get any better. I'll probably put a couple of thick top coats on that for tonight. 15 is the lowest, as it was before, and you can't paint below that really. Start getting horrible results. Okay, first top coat. Yeah. Every now and again in aerosol cans you will get a dodgy can. I mean, I've got one there. It's leaking a bit, so careful with it because they can naff up your whole paint job. They're kind of mass produced in third world countries, so read what you like into that. Okay, not too thick for the first one. That'll do. Here we go, 15 minutes. Okay, Second coat of top coat. We're getting near the knuckle now, 15 degrees being absolutely unpaintable, so 17 now. That's getting a bit cold. This is only the second coat, so I'm thinking this is going to be a nice heavy coat, and I'm going to let it dry and harden off, and then another 1200 grit, and I'll put the heavy coats on, probably 3 or 4 decent layers tomorrow when it will be warmer. If I do it now, it's going to run, it's going to react, it's going to pepper up and be all speckly. So I'm going to be patient with it, as I've been patient all the way along. I'm not going to rush it. I'm just going to put another coat on this tonight because I've now lost the temperature. So let's just put one more top coat on this, and then we can put it to bed for the night. Danger in this temperature, aerosol can paint, remember, it's not like 2-pack, it will just run. It's too cold. And the evaporation process doesn't take place properly, so you get thinners trapped below the layers, it just goes horrible. Rather wait till tomorrow and finish it with a bit more temperature on the side, hopefully. On the inside. Just blasting loads in there to seal it. Right. That is it. Okay, annoyingly, that's going to have to be it for tonight. Temperature's killed it. Dropping about 0.1, 0.2, been here before, it's just a slippery slope. I think I might chance one more layer, don't know. In 15 minutes from now, when this is ready to paint, it's just going to end up blooming and then looking hideous. So I'm not going to risk it, I'm going to call it a day there. That's only 2 layers of top coat, so that's not really enough. The slightest little stone's going to chip that. And I want to get good 6 coats. I want to get that whole can of paint on there, which will be a nice coat. Remember what I said way back, there's only probably that much actual paint, all the rest is thinners and pressurized air, so you know that's not a lot of paint on that, and I want that protected from the weather as much as it can be. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to put that to bed in the conservatory. That will give it 24 hours to harden off. A very quick, gentle 1200 paper tomorrow, just to put a little key surface in it, and then I'll give that 5 or maybe 6 if I've got enough paint, more coats on that to finish it off. Okay, so that's all for tonight. Thanks for tuning in and watching. I'm sorry I couldn't finish it, but the conditions have beat me and there's no point in rushing it, so I'll finish this tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in and watching Delboy's Garage. See you tomorrow.